Hi everyone, I just wanted to share a little tip for people who want to start learning wild edibles, and that is to focus on your staple foods. This is more so for the people who want to get the skill set in case they ever need to use it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just learning a few things here and there that you can eat. That's all well and good. As a bit of recreational wild edibles, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're actually wanting to learn how to feed yourself sustainably from the bush, one of the things you really got to look into, or at least in my opinion you should look into, is trying to find the staple foods in your area. I'm not going to tell you which ones you should go look for, because obviously we're from all different parts of the planet, and in other places it's going to be different. When I go to a new area, one of the first things I want to learn is the caloric staple for that area. Not necessarily what the indigenous people ate. There is a caloric staple on a mountain over that way that I know what it is. I know the indigenous population ate it. I know that there is tons and tons of it up there. Problem is, it requires special processing to remove the toxins. Though there are other wild edibles that are in great supply up there that I know of, so even if I got lost up there, it's no big deal, because I know tons of food in that area in terms of plants and things to gather. And the important point is, many indigenous cultures, meaning hunter-gatherer societies, pulled in the majority of their calories through gathering. Now I know on YouTube a lot of people are focusing on trapping. That's kind of a really popular thing on YouTube. That, and of course a bit of hunting and fishing. I totally get that. I don't know about you, but I would rather a steak over a salad, so I understand that people are more interested in trying to acquire meat resources. And in places where you really want a lot of fat and protein in your diet to get the calorie content up, trapping and fishing is definitely a good idea. And those are skills that I hold in great regard. However, in most hunter-gatherer societies, gathering brought in the majority of the calories. Or at least that's what my research has led me to believe. So if you want to learn how to feed yourself sustainably out in the outdoors, out in the bush, not necessarily for, just a bit of recreational wild edibles, but if you wanted to develop that skill in case you ever need to depend on it, one thing I would suggest is you look for caloric staples. Some of the things to look for in trying to find a caloric staple or a staple food is, first, it needs to be plentiful. Does you no good if there's only a handful of them. You want a large amount of that food in your area. You might have to travel some distance between plants, but there needs to be a good enough supply that you can eat it and not completely diminish it. Now, if you're actually harvesting it, I would recommend not harvesting and clearing out an entire section. You want to leave some of the plants behind so that they can regenerate. If you just clear through and eat them all and leave nothing behind you to regenerate and repopulate and grow new plants, you really are risking just completely wiping them out. Now, what I look for when trying to find a staple food in an area is, first off, they need to be plentiful. You want there to be lots of them, enough that you can survive on that plant. I'm looking for a plant that is so plentiful that by eating that plant, I can get my calorie intake high enough to survive. Now, you're probably not going to survive on that food alone, because you need your fats, your proteins, and your other vitamins and minerals. But that is for the calories. It's not going to keep you alive by itself, but it will provide a reliable source of calories and energy to allow you to go find the other things you need to complete your diet. Also, you want it to be able to either reproduce quickly so that you're not going to wipe it out too easily, or you want it to be able to harvest it without killing it, such as, you know, fruits and things growing in an area, or you can harvest mat rush within reason without killing it. On the other hand, we have things like cat's tails. One of those heads of cat's tails has thousands and thousands of seeds, so you can dig out the root, bust over the seed head, and let them float away if they're in season, which is the other thing I look for when trying to find a staple food. I need to be able to eat that food throughout the entire year. Now, if you cannot find a staple food that is edible all year round, you're going to have to look into foods that you can eat at those other times of the year, so you don't starve through that period. Now, example of this would be cat's tails. They reproduce in mass. One of those seed heads has thousands of seeds in it. They can float on the wind and repopulate massive amounts of new plants. In fact, I would love to look into learning how to cultivate them, you know, just as an insurance policy. Basically, if there was ever a WRL kind of incident and I had to go into the bush to live for an indefinite period of time, I'd be looking into flooding an area or making it very soggy and trying to cultivate some cat's tails just as a backup, you know, just to kind of increase the amount of calories in the area. But I digress. Now, you want to start looking for plants that have a reasonable amount of calories. For example, plants with edible bulbs, tubers, or undifferentiated leaf matter are what I typically look for first. But I would encourage you to start looking for your staple foods, the foods that you can rely on year round and can have enough calories that you can get your calorie requirements, not necessarily your nutritional requirements, but you can get all of the calories you need from it to give you the energy to go find the other foods that you need for your other nutritional needs. And if you can go and find the staple foods for your area, you have just made yourself considerably closer to being able to look after yourself long term in the outdoors if you ever needed to, say just out of lifestyle choice, or if there was ever an emergency. If you know what the staple foods in your area are, please drop them as a comment. Alright everyone, stay safe and hope you all have a good one.